Now at 5 and streaming on CrossroadsToday.com, authorities in Jackson County released the mugshot of the jailer arrested Wednesday. And Victoria Police is investigating a report of shots fired at Our Lady of Victory Church. And postal carriers in Florida struggle as the extreme heat wave continues.
Wave is definitely with us. It's going to be with us through the weekend. Right now, we're looking at our high at 98 today. We're going to be 98 pretty much through the weekend, and it might even go a little bit higher early next week. But I see a glimmer of hope in the far distance, and I'll be talking about that coming up in a moment. Back to you.
Mac, thank you. A third bus of immigrants have arrived from Brownsville to Los Angeles Thursday afternoon, the latest in several arrivals from Texas. You're watching 25 News now at 5. Good afternoon and thanks for being with us. I'm Karina Garcia. James Munoz has the day off. Victoria Police is investigating a report of shots fired at Our Lady of Victory Church located at the corner of Laurent and Mesquite. According to witnesses, someone fired shots into the door during the night. Police is asking anyone who has information to contact them at 361-573-3221 or at 361-485-3200. Today, authorities in Jackson County released the mugshot of the jailer arrested Wednesday. 58-year-old Donald Morris is accused of having an improper relationship with an inmate. The Texas Ranger is investigating the case. The county employee faces charges of violating the civil rights of a person in custody and improper sexual activity with a person in custody. Bond was set at $75,000. 25 News Now has requested the arrest warrant in this case. A young contract worker at Formosa Plastics Corporation died this morning. Early reports say he fell 40 feet. 25 News Now reporter Adam Seibel is live at Formosa Plastics and can tell us more. Adam, what do you have?
That's right. So 25 News Now has learned a young contract worker died at Formosa's Plastic Corporation this morning. Workers reported having a safety stand-down meeting to discuss an accident. They also learned of a fatality in new construction at the Point Comfort location. Early reports indicate the worker who died was only on his second day on the job and fell 40 feet from a scaffold to his death. It's unclear if the worker had an experienced journeyman with him. It's also unclear if he was tied down with fall protection or if it failed. The name of the worker who died has not been released. Calhoun County Justice of the Peace Precinct 3, Tanya Dimack, pronounced the man dead and ordered an autopsy. Formosa is located at 201 Formosa Drive. This is here in Point Comfort. Like I said, they're still not releasing the name of that young person that died here. But the Justice of the Peace did order an autopsy, so as soon as we have more information about that accident, we will post it. Back to you.
Adam, thank you so much. Friday morning, Victoria County Sheriff's deputies arrested two men at a home in the 2600 block of Prince Street. 38-year-old Daniel Jose arrested for court warrants and 33-year-old Gerard O'Neill Farrow arrested for felony possession of a controlled substance. Also there, a juvenile male suspected shooter taken into custody and charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. That is connected to a July 2nd shooting in the 500 block of Commerce Street in Bloomington. 3 different weapons were taken during the search. Fire crews from Goliad and Refugio responding to a massive fire at the Coastal Plains Cotton Seed Warehouse in Mathis. The warehouse is on Highway 359. KXXI reports that the fire is believed to have been caused by sparking electrical poles. Authorities say fire crews are also working to put out the pallets of cardboard and hand sanitizer that caused embers that are currently adding to that spark in the fire. The National Weather Service issues excessive heat warnings for 2 area counties. DeWitt and Lavaca counties under excessive heat warnings until 9 o'clock tonight. The National Weather Service says heat index values up to 113 degrees are expected. And with that, let's take a look at your forecast with Chief Meteorologist Mac Perez with more heat.
Yeah, I wish I had a different story to sing for you, but I don't. In fact, the only good news is that it's Friday and a lot of you heading into the weekend. The heat advisories will continue, as Karina mentioned, for today and tomorrow and all of next week. There's no real relief in sight in the short term. 10 days from today's the 14th, right? 10 days from now, 24th, I'm hoping that there's a little bit of a break in all this. So we'll be talking about that coming up in a moment.
Mac, thank you. ERCOT reports Texas set a new unofficial July and all-time peak electricity demand record Thursday. That broke the all-time record set Wednesday. ERCOT has also issued a weather watch for this Sunday through Tuesday due to forecasted higher temperatures, higher electrical demand, and the potential for lower reserves. ERCOT reports there is currently enough capacity to meet expected demand. As the extreme heat wave continues across southern U.S., postal carriers in Florida are struggling underneath this intense heat.
We've been struggling, sweat, drink of water, trying to stay cool, but it's a struggle every day.
This postal worker who didn't want to reveal his identity talked about what it's like working in the heat and driving around with no AC.
It's 98 degrees, heat index about 115, add another 10 for the inside of the truck. 125 degrees.
And you're spending how long in that truck?
A good 6 hours.
In Texas last month, a postal carrier died while on the job when the heat index was soaring. The death has prompted this letter from some members of Congress to the Postmaster General, saying they have deep concerns over the working conditions and labor policies of the Postal Service.
We've been pushing to get earlier start times since the carrier died in Texas.
Jeffrey Wagner is the president of the Postal Carriers Union, representing 1,500 carriers from Sebastian to West Palm Beach, and says so far the only change has been worse.
They're pushing our times later. They recently changed our start time starting this Saturday to 9 o'clock from 8 o'clock in some offices, and we want the push to get them back to 7:30. We believe it would be safer for our members.
Replacing the Postal Service's 30-year-old trucks with new ones with AC is expected to start late next year and take several more to complete.
The Texas Department of State Health Services has launched a fentanyl data dashboard. This is part of the state's One Pill Kills campaign, which shows and tracks fentanyl poisoning deaths. Texans can access information that shows fentanyl-related deaths from the past 10 years and by geography. To visit the dashboard, come to crossroadstoday.com for more information. A third bus of migrants have arrived from Texas to Los Angeles Thursday afternoon. Authorities said 35 passengers from Brownsville arrived in downtown Los Angeles about 12:20 p.m. They were offered limited services, including food, clothing, and legal information about immigration consultations. Governor Greg Abbott said he sent the bus to Los Angeles because California declared themselves a sanctuary city for immigrants and extended protections to people living in the country illegally. And so this brings us to your viewer poll this afternoon. Scan that QR code on your screen to vote now. The question is sending migrants to sanctuary cities a good strategy for the migrant situation? Yes or no? We want to hear from you on this. Come to crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part, and we're going to have an update on 25 News Now at 6. Now, authorities in Texas are installing a floating fence in the Rio Grande to stop migrants from crossing the river illegally. These large barriers have fencing that hangs down to create a marine barrier in the middle of the river. The plan to install 1,000 feet of fence in the river. The DPS hopes this new measure will stop people from making the deadly decision to cross the Rio Grande. Last week, 4 migrants, including a baby, drowned attempting to cross this river. The project will cost about $1 million. Texas General Land Office Commissioner Don Buckingham celebrates a ribbon-cutting ceremony in a significant milestone in their ongoing efforts to rebuild communities affected by Hurricane Harvey. The Texas General Land Office awarded a grant of nearly $5.5 million towards the construction of the 21-unit affordable rental complex. The completion of this complex provides the community with access to safe, affordable, and sustainable housing.
We love being a part of helping communities grow the way they need to grow. What I say every day is the metric that we measure our agency by is you're supposed to serve the people you're supposed to serve, and you're supposed to do it well.
Of these apartment units, 51% are guaranteed for low to moderate income residents. And we invite you to see what we're tweeting about on our Twitter page. Our partners at the Texas Tribune have an article about an $18 billion tax cut for property owners heading to Governor Greg Abbott's desk for signature. This story is also on our Crossroads Today page. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click that notification bell. For now, stay with us. Straight ahead on 25 News Now at 5, the Biden administration has announced $39 billion in student debt relief to some student loan borrowers. Also ahead, The actors joined the WGA in a combined strike against Hollywood studios.
Here's a look at what's coming up on Community Crossroads. We hear from Theater Victoria, the Victoria Police Department, the Quero Chamber of Commerce, and we also learn about a speech therapy.
Symptoms could be anything from difficulty chewing, holding food in your mouth, difficulty swallowing, coughing, throat clearing after the swallow, and then just feeling like food is stuck in your throat.
The Biden administration has announced $39 billion in student debt relief. 804,000 borrowers will have their student debt wiped soon due to administrative fixes. Right now, there are multiple repayment plans for borrowers with federal student loans based on a borrower's income and family size. Last month, the Supreme Court struck down Biden's loan forgiveness program to provide millions of borrowers up to $20,000 in one-time federal student debt relief. The Screen Actors of Guilds of approximately 160,000 members are now on strike. They join members of Writers Union who have been on strike since May.
Actors hitting the picket line Friday, going on strike against television shows and movie productions for the first time since 1980.
We are being victimized by a very greedy entity.
The SAG-AFTRA strike crippling a TV and movie business already limping during the Writers Guild of America's strike. Both guilds are upset over compensation in the streaming era.
There's a whole middle class of writers and actors that is disappearing because they're making it more and more difficult to just make a living.
Along with better pay, actors say residuals for past work have been dried up since the rise of streaming services. Concerns about artificial intelligence are another sticking point in negotiations. Studios say they've offered the highest % increase in minimum pay in 35 years.
There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic. And they are adding to a set of challenges that this business is already facing.
For viewers, the impacts on their screens could be felt by the end of the year.
The movie productions will shut down. TV productions have shut down. Many have already shut down because of the writer's strike. So we're going to see, season premieres happening much later.
I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
The CDC is facing big funding cuts. The agency is expected to lose about $1.3 billion in funding as a result of last month's federal debt ceiling negotiation. The money was initially allocated through COVID-19 supplemental funding. The cuts will directly impact state and local health experts. An example, a grant funding disease intervention specialist across the country was one of the first things canceled. The last 2 years of the 5-year grant were slashed, worth more than $400 million. This weekend marks the 1-year anniversary of 988. This is the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Here's more.
It's a milestone. 1 year, 3 numbers, more than 5 million calls, chats, and texts.
988 has become, for those in mental health crisis, what 911 is for states of emergency.
While the latest data shows more people are reaching out to 988 than the harder to remember 10-digit number previously used, the Lifeline has been impacted by a national shortage of mental health professionals.
it makes it doubly tough. Fortunately, we've worked really hard to make sure that at 988, we continue to build the workforce so we can make sure we're answering those calls, texts, and chats.
Javier Becerra, the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, says work is being done to help those most at risk for mental health struggles, including a pilot program aimed at the LGBTQ+ community.
If you signal that you're interested in hearing from someone who understands where you're coming from, we can do that. Veterans, it's the same thing. We have a queue if you're a veteran.
988 callers can also speak to someone in Spanish, and Becerra says starting this week they can text and chat in Spanish as well.
What we continue to do at 988 is try to build out the capacity with people that are very similar in circumstance to those that are calling in.
The focus now, getting callers the professional help they need after reaching out to 988.
And that's where we have to work hardest, is because we have to make sure that if someone is willing to say, I'm reaching out to you before I go in the wrong direction, that we can then follow up with the services that they need.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
This weekend marks the one-year anniversary of 9888, the easier to remember number. Anyone can dial, text, or message through chat in order to get help 24/7. A blistering heat wave is sweeping across Europe, potentially bringing record-breaking temperatures and affecting people's health. Parts of Spain, France, Greece, and Italy are all facing intense heat, with temperatures rising above 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Last year, more than 61,000 people died in Europe's summer heat wave. This current heat wave has prompted fears for people's health since it coincides with one of the busiest periods of Europe's summer tourist season.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Yes, the heat is all of northern hemisphere. So the northern half of the entire Earth is covered by this very warm pocket of air. And of course, it's not just one pocket, it's the amount of chemicals that we have in the air that are sort of retaining the heat in our atmosphere. For us, the heat dome, where it's located, makes a big difference on how hot it'll be, and we'll be tracking that coming up in just a moment. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. Obviously, the weekend is here, and some of you got all kinds of neat plans, I'm sure. Hopefully, a lot of it's going to be indoors. We're down to 95 after an afternoon high today. It got us up to 98. Now, if I told you that that's going to go to 100 or 101, would you be even further saddened, I don't want you to be sad. I just want you to be ready for that stuff, because we're going to start pushing this kind of number over the next couple of days. I'll tell you why in a second. These are the highs that we observed today: 93 in Palacios, 95 Bay City, 98 for us, 102 in Gonzales, and everybody on the other side of Gonzales continues with temperatures in the hundreds. You can see it right there. Look at I-35 all the way to Dallas in the low 100s, and everybody west in the hundreds, and everybody on the west coast also on the hundreds. Now, as I was mentioning, the dome is moving around. Where it's centered makes a big difference on how hot it's going to be. This is the forecast for tomorrow, so basically I-35 well into the hundreds, and we're going to be really close. Problem is, as the dome moves around, it may affect us a little bit differently, but I've got some news for you. Oppressive humidities right on through the weekend. So there's no real change right about there. All you got to know is that if you need to walk the dog or get outside to the yard or let the children play, late, about sundown or early in the morning before maybe 10 or 11 o'clock, I know you got to get out. I know some guys are going to go do golf, and as long as they've got a breeze blowing, that'll help. But still, you got to replace the fluids because you're going to perspire quite a bit. Now, let's see what's going on in the state. Believe it or not, a couple of thunder showers along the Red River, but not so much in Texas. We're fairly quiet right about now. Heat advisories for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then possibly even spreading into next week. Now, the heat index all the way from, the bubble of heat all the way from Alabama to the West Coast, and here is the concern. Now, the center of the dome is right about here, okay? So that's why it's going to be blazing in the desert Southwest over the weekend. We're still on the warm side, but remember that the winds are coming clockwise around this line, okay? They're going like this, right? So what's going to happen early next week is the dome is going to move over us. That's why the temperatures will go up to about 101, 102 for us. And then it's going to move back to the Intermountain region, basically right here, Utah. And that's going to allow us to get a little bit of cooler weather, slightly cooler weather, not as hot weather. And that won't be for 10 days, though. I'm just giving you a glimmer of hope so that, you don't lose all hope. So we'll watch and wait for that one, okay? That's 10 days from now. Now, we have a tropical storm in the Atlantic. It's called Don. Don really can't get its act together, can't decide which way to go. Look at Don went up, then Don went down, then Don went round and round, and then the forecast passes this one. So not going to be much of a storm. That's Don. Of course, you know who we're talking about here. So on the West Coast, we have this storm, which will strengthen to a hurricane, but then fall apart before it gets to the Hawaiian Islands. All right, here is the forecast for Port Lavaca. And then, of course, for those of you in Cuero, you'll get up to about 101 degrees, and that's what we're looking for on your 7-day forecast. Reminding everybody that we do have a QR code. We'd love for you to scan that and put Crossroads Today on your phone. Back to you, Karina.
Thank you, Matt. Coming up on 25 News now at 5, we'll take a look at your stocks. Plus, the Texas TikTok ban gets hit with its first lawsuit. Taking a look at your stocks, the Dow up 114 points, the S&P 500 losing 4 points, and the Nasdaq losing 25 points. Oil down $1.47, closing at $75.42 a barrel. The ban on TikTok at Texas state institutions is being challenged in court, with Columbia University's Knight First Amendment Institute leading the charge. The suit claims the ban compromises academic freedom and hinders important research. The filing comes amid growing concern that TikTok could be a threat since it is owned by a Chinese-owned company. The concern is that China could use TikTok to spy on the U.S., though there's no evidence pointing to that happening. Other states have also passed limited TikTok bans, like Montana, where TikTok has been banned for users since May. Stay with us. We'll take one last look at your forecast. Plus, a young boy in Rhode Island is using a lemonade stand to raise money for a hospital. In Rhode Island is making a huge difference with an inspiring initiative to help other children. 9-year-old Theo Durson's lemonade stand raised $2,000 for Hasbro's Children's Hospital. This is the third year in a row he has used the stand to benefit children at the hospital. He says the first 2 years they raised $100. Durson receives treatment at Hasbro's Children's Hospital for ADHD and Tourette's. He says he wants people to get better and feel better just like he did. Oh, humbling.
Nice.
Humbling stories.
What a nice tall glass of lemonade would do for everybody right now.
A lemonade stand here, I'll give you all my money if I see you.
Yeah,
honestly.
that would be.
Yeah.
That's something to do this weekend. You know, make some lemonade and try and stay inside and stay cool. Temperatures are unfortunately going to stay where they are, about 98, 99, and early next week. I'm not putting this out there for no reason. We could even see 101 as the pressure on top of it is going to be moving around. But then, and I don't want to tell you too far in advance, but 10 days from now, I see a change in the pattern. That's on the 24th of July. That
Ooh,
we
there's
may
hope.
Yeah, we'll get back to normal, like 90 degrees,
okay,
and maybe even a couple of showers.
Ooh.
But it's 10 days from now. looking for anything, folks. I'm reaching for straws here to give you some hope for the weekend. But that is what we've got for this weekend. Karina?
That's right. And I'll take 90 degrees over 110.
I know. Wouldn't it be great?
130.
Gosh.
At this
just
point,
90.
Yeah. That rain right now is just, I'll do anything for it. Well, thanks for being with us. We hope to see you back here tonight for 25 News Now at 6, and World News Tonight with Dave Amir is up next.